Welcome to the new episode of the Cyber Threats Radar podcast.
And welcome to this deep dive. Today we're tackling something that's, critical but so often overlooked. I'm talking about the humble browser extension.
Right. It's what I call the great security paradox. We absolutely love extensions. I mean, who doesn't use an ad blocker or a password manager? They make life so much easier.
Of course.
But what we're finding is that these tiny little bits of software, they carry this incredible and usually ignored security risk right into your most sensitive corporate environments.
That's it, exactly. Our mission today is really to explore how these add-ons, which seem so benign, can fundamentally compromise your organization's data. And more importantly, how you can use intelligence to manage a risk that's just, well, it's too fast for manual control.
Okay, let's jump right into that core danger. What exactly is an extension, and why do they have such a scary amount of access?
So at its core, an extension is just a small software module that runs inside your browser. It's designed to add or change how a website works. But the key part is that they run inside the browser. And because of that, they're granted permissions that can be terrifyingly broad.
When you say broad permissions, what's the worst case scenario there? What does that actually let them do?
The worst case is like having a spy sitting right at your keyboard watching everything you do. The extension might ask for the ability to, and I'm quoting here, read and change all your data on the websites you visit.
Read and change all data.
All of it. This isn't just about reading your emails. Think about it. You log into your corporate payroll system, you access regulated data, maybe something covered by HIPAA or a SOC2 Type 2 report.
Yeah.
The extension sees all of that data live before it's even encrypted to leave your browser. It sees your passwords, your private information, everything. If that extension is compromised, your whole digital life is compromised.
Wow, that really puts the risk into perspective. Okay, so let's get into our first segment. If that kind of power is the baseline risk, why are organizations, like the ones we work with at Spin.AI, so aggressive about auditing and removal? I mean, beyond just a cluttered browser, what are the really non-negotiable reasons security teams are pushing for this?
Well, the primary reasons fall into about 5 big categories, and they're all interconnected. Every security architect really needs to get their head around these.
Okay, lay them out for us. What are those risk categories?
So first, and this is the most direct threat, is the suspicion of malicious behavior. This is when an extension is actively trying to hijack what you're doing.
Right.
We saw the sheer scale of this recently when our researchers at Spin.AI uncovered something like 14.2 million more victims tied to the huge Red Direction attack campaign.
14.2 million victims. That is a staggering number. What was that redirection campaign actually doing?
It was a classic example.
Yeah.
It was a campaign of malicious extensions that were disguised as legitimate tools. Things like PDF converters or productivity apps.
Things people search for every day.
Every single day. But once they were installed, they didn't care about functionality. They were built to hijack user traffic, redirect you to malicious landing pages, ad sites, or even credential harvesting forms. It's an invisible data siphon.
And the user probably has no idea what's happening because the extension looked totally fine when they installed it.
Precisely. Which brings us to the second big reason for removal: privacy risks. I mean, a lot of extensions are basically just data collections tools. They're transmitting your browsing habits to third parties. Sometimes it's for marketing, but sometimes it's for much worse.
And what about the last 3 risks?
Okay, so number 3 is just performance degradation. Poorly coded extensions are resource hogs. They slow down the browser, they eat up memory, they cause crashes. That hits productivity, and it costs money.
Sure.
Fourth is compliance and policy enforcement. This is huge for regulated industries. If your organization handles sensitive data, you can only allow approved extensions. An unauthorized extension that connects to some unapproved API. That's an immediate policy violation.
And the last one, which I think is the most human problem of all.
Yes, number 5 is just user forgetfulness. Someone installs an extension for a one-time job. Maybe to capture a web page or something.
The install and forget problem. We've all done that.
Exactly. And then it sits there for 2 years forgotten. That dormant piece of software leaves a door wide open, and it just massively increases the organization's attack surface.
So that forgotten extension means the window for an attacker, that attack surface, just stays open forever, multiplying the risk.
That's the problem. And, that leads us perfectly into the next big topic: the sheer impossibility of manual control.
Right.
We all know that. Individually, you can go to chrome.extensions or about.addons and clean things up. But for an IT team that's managing hundreds, maybe thousands of users, manual removal is just a catastrophe waiting to happen. Why does that fail so badly at scale?
Well, that's the thing. If the risk is so clear, why can't security teams just send out a memo and trust employees to clean up their own machines?
Because the manual process is slow, it's tedious, and clever attackers can invalidate it almost instantly. For one thing, you've got hidden and obfuscated extensions.
Oh,
Malicious actors are sophisticated. They'll disguise their extensions with names of legitimate apps, common icons, and this is the really tricky part. They use obfuscated scripts.
can you just define obfuscated scripts in simple terms for us?
Yeah, of course. Think of it like code that has been deliberately scrambled to be unreadable. It's done specifically to stop anyone, a person, or even a basic security scanner, from figuring out what the code is really doing.
So it's the silent, hidden activity.
Exactly. It's siphoning your data while looking perfectly legitimate on the surface. So even if IT sends out a bad list of extensions, if the malware uses a fake name and hidden code, the average user has zero chance of spotting
What
it.
no chance? Okay.
And then the second major issue is just frequent reinstallation and cleanup fatigue. I mean, you could spend all this time and money on a big cleanup effort. And then a week later, users are unintentionally reinstalling risky extensions just to get a simple task done.
It's like pushing a boulder up a hill just to watch it roll back down. The Sisyphus analogy.
That is exactly what it feels like for security teams. And on top of that, they suffer from limited visibility. A modern company uses everything, Chrome, Edge, maybe Firefox. Security teams just don't have a single unified view of the extension risks across all those different browsers. You can't protect what you can't see.
And if you can't see it, you can't enforce policy, which brings us right back to those huge compliance and data governance risks.
Absolutely. The lack of visibility means an unauthorized extension could be exposing sensitive data or hitting a forbidden API. The fines for a compliance violation can be way higher than the cost of just preventing it in the first place. The risk is just too high for manual work.
That raises a really important question. If manual control is impossible because the risk is always changing, I mean, a trusted extension gets an update or it changes owners, how do we get ahead of it? We need automated intelligence.
The manual approach is defined by that failure. What was safe yesterday could be your biggest risk today if the developer sells it to a bad actor. That's why the security world had to pivot to automated, intelligent solutions.
And this is where Spin.AI comes into the picture, providing that kind of solution for continuous risk assessment. So how does automated intelligence actually analyze this dynamic landscape?
We use AI-driven analytics. It automatically detects, evaluates, and manages extensions across all of your user endpoints. So instead of relying on a manual check once a quarter, the system is continuously scanning for threats.
And the output of that is the key, right?
The core output is an AI-generated risk score for every single extension in your environment.
That's the game changer. An objective score that tells an admin instantly, this is a 5-alarm fire versus this is just minor clutter. So how does the AI figure out that score? What's it looking at?
The AI focuses on the four most critical vectors of extension risk. First, it looks at permissions and access levels. It evaluates exactly what data the extension can see or change. That's the simplest metric, but it's the most important.
And the second one deals with that problem you mentioned earlier of a trusted developer suddenly going rogue.
Precisely. The second vector is developer trustworthiness. The AI reviews the publisher's reputation, their ownership history, the source integrity. So if a clean extension suddenly changes hands to an unknown developer, the risk score changes automatically. It's tracking the human supply chain risk.
That continuous check on ownership feels like the most powerful part of an automated defense. What are the last two vectors?
The third is detecting that secret activity, API behavior and network activity. This is where the AI finds those hidden data transfers or flags, those obfuscated scripts that other tools miss. And finally, it analyzes the security and compliance posture. Is it being updated? Is it using encryption? Does it adhere to company policies?
So instead of IT spending days auditing every extension, they just get a prioritized, objective list of threats.
And that intelligence doesn't just give you a list. It lets you take immediate policy-based action. Using the Spin.AI platform, admins can set rules to automatically disable, remove, or quarantine extensions based on their risk score. You're essentially eliminating the attack surface without anyone having to lift a finger. That's the only way to manage this kind of risk at scale.
This whole deep dive really confirms what we started with. Browser extensions are incredibly powerful, but they have to be treated as critical entry points for threats. And while, yes, you can remove them manually, the scale of the risk and the sophistication of the attackers, it just demands automated, intelligent management.
And here's a final thought for you to take away. The browser environment never sleeps. New extensions pop up, permissions change, ownership changes overnight. If your security review process is based on manual periodic checks,
Yeah.
you are always playing catch up.
You're always one step behind.
Always. Real security can only be maintained if the review is continuous and automated.
Hmm.
That continuous monitoring, that is the true essence of reducing your browser extension attack surface.
That's the perfect challenge to leave our listeners with. If you're responsible for your organization's security, you have to understand that browser extension risk is no longer a fringe issue. It is a central attack vector, and it demands centralized AI-driven management. Thank you for listening. Stay safe.